It's the BBP TV show since 2012, where amazing guests share their digital adventures. Who will we meet today? Small biz influencer, up-and-coming trendsetter, accomplished author? You never know who'll be dropping by. And now, here's your host, Elaine Lindsay, the bionic glamourpreneur with Truel Social Media, who's the second most curious person on the planet.
Hello. It's lovely to be here, and I'm really excited to bring you my new guest. I'm going to actually bring her on right away. Hi there, Gina.
Hello, how are you? So happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It's lovely to have you. I'm going to take just a moment and explain to people who you are and how we met. Basically, Gina has a company and is called Espresso Brain. She has a background as a financial advisor, a networking expert, best-selling author. She's also a speaker, and she helps purpose-driven men and women, groups and organizations to create a networking plan backed with a process to grow their network, get more out of their membership, and be recognized as a center of influence. Now, to me, that is absolutely the triad of what we need and what we need to know. I met Gina through my good friend, Patty Farmer, and yes. Patty is so wonderful at connecting people that are like-minded, people that are super interesting, and people that I am super excited to talk to. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's really funny how you mentioned Patty Farmer, how I met her. We both spoke at an event in the mountains in beautiful Yosemite. And I was supposed to room with the woman who put on the event. And I was in the room getting unpacked and everything. And there was a little knock at the door, and there was Cheryl Calhoun, which was the promoter of the event. And she said, Gina, there's been a little bit of a glitch in the rooming assignments. Would you mind? And then she stepped out of the way, and then there was Patty Farmer. She said, this is Patty. Would you mind rooming with Patty? And I said, oh, absolutely. Come on in. And we hit it off. We had to shut it off at 10 p.m. because we needed to be up early in the morning to speak. And we said, okay, we'll just keep carrying this conversation on later. But that's how I met Patty. We actually roomed together, had a lot in common. And what a way to meet somebody. It was super fun.
I love that, diving in, just being put together and finding wonderful bits and pieces of common ground. And, you and I both believe Patty's absolutely amazing.
Yes.
So I think the first time I said it, I pronounced it wrong. It's Espresso Brain.
Correct.
Which is a really interesting name, considering your background is financial and networking, and you have written books. How did we get to be Espresso Brain?
Espresso Brain came from, believe it or not, a networking event, BNI. So, Business Networking International, they have chapters across the nation and internationally. And I was a member of the Central Valley chapter in California. I became the president. We had a really great group. And BNI teaches such good networking skills. And it meets weekly, so it just kind of ingrains it. And when you have a solid group that's interested in learning about networking and doing it better and better, that group just grew. But one day, one of the members said, hey, I found this book. I'd like to read it. Anybody want to form a book club? So I raised my hand, and off we went to Starbucks to study The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss.
Yes.
Through studying the book, we decided to apply the lessons that he was teaching about outsourcing and kind of being hands-off and creating some sort of income stream that was reoccurring. And we just had a lot of fun with it. And at first, there was a company in the Central Valley that had created a coffee product because the the gentleman who created it worked out at the gym all the time, and he saw people walking in with their Starbucks and also their protein drinks. And he thought, how could I marry the two and have it be a healthier option? And so he was selling his product through many different distribution channels, one of them being Costco. And we thought, well, maybe we can partner with him and see if we could sell that product through our Espresso Brain brand, because we created the brand without really a product. But the fact that we were meeting in Starbucks had to do with coffee. The 4-hour work week, we were working with our brains, and we kind of came up with Espresso Brain. That's where the name came from. Fast forward, we decided not to partner with that company because we found out the type of caffeine that was in this product was synthetic. And we didn't want a synthetic caffeine. We wanted a real caffeine, caffeinated product if we were going to represent something that's consumable. Then I joined my husband's financial services firm and became a financial advisor. That was in 2008. And because I had a securities license, anything I did outside, I would have to get approved. So if I wanted to speak to a group not having to do with financial services, I'd have to get everything approved and submit. And it just was a long, arduous process. But we had the capability of creating an outside business activity that was approved once. And then I could do what I wanted to do through that as long as I followed some parameters, and which I did. So Espresso Brain became my outside business activity. I do have a partner in Espresso Brain. And what led us to making that our networking, everything networking, is that when I went to work in the financial services business, when you go into any sales position, what's the first thing they ask you to do?
Network.
Network and or make a list of the 100 people that you know.
Yep.
I made my list, and my manager from LA said, okay, now you go out and call on these people. And I looked and I go, well, client, center of influence already, because my husband had been in the business for 30 some years by then. Now we've been in the business 46 years. But we were working together already. Even though I became a financial advisor in 2008, I was working on client promotions and knew all the clients. So my list was kind of the same as his list by that time, because you know the same people. And that's when my manager said, well, it looks like you're going to have to go out and meet new people.
Oh.
Yeah, which was great because it forced me to get outside a comfort zone. I went to my first event. I was all excited. I was a new advisor. I had my business cards in my hand. I was all dressed for the part and walked into the restaurant and connected eye contact with a gentleman. And he started talking so fast to me. Spit was literally flying out of his mouth. And he was trying to hand me his flyers. And I don't even know what he was saying or what he does to this day. I don't remember his name. I just remember it was a bad experience. Yeah. And I thought, I got to get out of here quickly. So I just said, I have to go use the restroom. I went in the restroom and then I ran for my car, and I got in my car and I just sat there for a second thinking, this is not working. Like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
The next morning I went to work and I read my company newsletter. And at the bottom of that newsletter, there was a little blurb, and it said, how to politely end a conversation. And I thought, okay, yeah, like, who is somebody watching me? This is information I could have used last night. And it was so simple. It was simply, it's been really nice meeting you here. I'm sure there are others you'd like to meet, and I hope to see you again. And it could have, you just don't want to seem like you're, not paying attention, or you don't want to seem rude, but that's not rude. That just lets the person know, okay, I've met you now. I'm ready to move on. I'm sure you are too. And we can part ways as friends, and maybe I'll see you again sometime. Then I it was written by Mel Kaufman, and it was a piece out of his book called The Little Miracles, A Journey to Financial Freedom.
Right.
So I quickly Googled Mel Kaufman. I found a phone number for him in Walla Walla, Washington. I called him up, and he was in his 80s at this time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I said, hey, Mel, I read your article in my company newsletter. We chit-chatted a little bit. I said, do you have more? Like, I need more of that. He goes, I do. I have 100 more. I said,
Wow.
great. Where do I get it? Can I get it on Amazon, the bookstore? He goes, no, I'm old fashioned. I'll send you my book. So I wrote a check. He sent me the book. And he said, how about I follow up with you in a week or so and see what you thought about my book? I said, sounds good. And he did. And I had read the book 3 times within that 1 week. It was filled with so much great information. It really took the guesswork out, and it created such a science to the networking. And he wrote it when he was a membership director of the Wilshire Chamber of Commerce in Los Angeles. Because he noticed that members were getting together, they would go to events, and they were just handing business cards back and forth and really not creating the profitable relationships that networking really can bring you, because no one had a process.
Yeah.
They just left it to chance. And so he called me, asked me what I thought about his book. I said I thought it was wonderful. And he challenged me to get 5 business owners together and study the book for 6 weeks. And he gave me kind of a little bit of an outline, how to follow it. And so I did that, and we all went to the networking events, and we became this little power partner networking group that went out, and then other people started finding out about it. Pretty soon, I had these little book studies going on with people for the next 6-8 months. I added 300 qualified prospects to my pipeline in 1 year, just because I had reached out to him based on the experience I had on my first networking event.
That tells me right there, and that's something it's so important for people to understand. Okay, just because that first experience wasn't good, don't give up. Don't give up right there. Like, you went on. Kudos to you for thinking outside the box and going that one step further. And hallelujah that the universe popped in and left his quote in your newsletter.
Yes. I mean, it was beautifully aligned. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he's passed now, but before he passed, we had quite a great working relationship, and he gave me and my partner, the Espresso Brain, rights to his book. So it's called Little Miracles, A Journey to Financial Freedom, and it is available on Amazon.
Wow.
So we can continue carrying his good work on.
That's excellent. Excellent. And so that's part of what you do with your business, is continue forward, introducing people to the book.
Right. And that's how I built my financial services practice based on business networking. And then the more people recognized that I was networking in a different manner, they came to me and they're like, hey, what are you doing that I'm not? And then Espresso Brain created the 4-week networking mastermind, so that I can, because I was getting so much inquiry and sharing so much information, I got to the point where I needed to be compensated for my time. And that's why I created the mastermind, so I can reach out to a lot of people at one time. If they're interested, they could join a mastermind, and in 4 weeks, they can know everything I know.
Absolutely. And I think part of that, I think what's really, really important is for people to understand the biggest thing you said in that is about building that business relationship. It's not about you take my card and I'll take yours. Mm-hmm. It's about actually building a relationship. And don't you find that to me is universal?
Definitely it is. But when you're at a networking event, it's not really the time to build the relationship. No. The networking portion is to decide, who is this person? What do they do? Are business, ethics in alignment? Yeah. Is there some sort of common denominator that now I can ask you for your information so that we can follow up? And really, the relationship starts to build once you have that one-on-one moving forward.
And I think it's important that you're actually teaching how to make those choices, if you will, from the get-go. Because I know in the notes I read on the book, it doesn't explain networking, but it teaches how to use networking properly.
Right. Yeah. And I've condensed it into a 4-week process that just is like, this is when you show up. This is what you say when you get there. And by the way, I ask the same questions to any person I meet, whether they're the janitor or they're the CEO, or if I met the president of the United States, my questions would be exactly the same. It doesn't matter who you are, and consistency is key.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Consistency is key. So what are the first 3 things you say to somebody?
I find out what they do, how long they've been doing it, and who their ideal client is. A lot of times, most people don't know how to answer the ideal client question. They'll say, well, anyone who, and that's not the answer. So I have to kind of narrow it down. I get them through a series of little follow-up questions to really tell me who their ideal client is, but most people haven't stopped to think about it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who your ideal client is, how is the person that's meeting you going to be able to remember you, or to be able to identify? I teach this in the mastermind, that we have this Rolodex, and this is an old term. So if you're young and you don't know what a Rolodex is, it's that old school, you got a business card or you wrote on a card and it went on this little alphabetical turn thing, and you could turn to the card you want. There it is. So that's the Rolodex, and it spins in everybody's head. So when you say, I do this or that for everyone, that Rolodex continues to spin. But if you say, I do this or that for teachers who are in the STRS retirement system in California, then boom, my Rolodex stops and all my teacher friends' cards start just standing out. And then I can say, oh, I know 5 or 6 teachers that are your ideal client. Not that I'm going to share them at our first meeting, but in my head, I've identified ways that I can help refer people to you once I get to know that you're worthy of those referrals.
Absolutely. Sorry, that's a really, really good point, because rushing in and just vomiting everything you know and everyone you know at anyone and everyone you meet at a networking event can actually turn around and bite you in the butt.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of criteria that goes in. I don't meet with everyone one-on-one. It just really depends on what kind of information I'm gathering by their answers that they're giving to me in a very short window of time, because I want to maximize my time and meet as many people as I can in the networking portion of any meeting, organization, or networking meeting. You know, just a general networking place is a lot of fun. So having everything ready to go at your fingertips and knowing all that and not having to even think about it will get you so many more results and help you create the profitable relationships for both people. When it works, It works both ways. So
absolutely. And it's funny because knowing what you do and how you do it, it's really interesting to watch good networkers, because they do spend less time, yet they seem to take in an awful lot more about the people they actually interact with.
Right. Because my definition of networking is sharing information, ideas, and resources, and not selling.
But also being prepared.
Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's being prepared, because I can't tell you how often I've heard people say, you know, I talk to some people and they have no idea who their ideal client is. It's hard, like anything else. How do you measure whether or not you're being successful if you don't even know what you're measuring.
Right.
It's good to have a place to start, but if you're not even sure of what exactly it is that you're measuring, then a place to start isn't going to help you either.
Right. And not giving networking the weight it needs in your business planning, whether you plan for a year, a month, a 12-week year, whatever your planning process is. If there isn't planned networking time with focused numbers and outcome, and how many events will you go, how much money are you spending towards those events, it's a whole process. And I find that very rarely will anyone really give it the weight that networking deserves, because once you exhaust your warm market and your contacts, your next sale is going to come from a stranger.
Yeah.
And your next sale and your next sale. And so if you do it right, then you get referrals and you get introduced around and you meet centers of influence, and it doesn't become such a hard process of going through trying to meet somebody and turn it into some sort of sale in the end.
Yeah. It's almost like when you don't do it well, you're starting from scratch every single time you talk to somebody. So you're not gaining any ground anywhere. And every time you have to go for a new client, to me, that's an awful lot of work that you shouldn't want to have to do.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm all about maximizing my time. And so not having to start over at every turn. I mean, that's exhausting. It's so much more fun to be creating a network that you nurture and that gives back to you and you give to it. And it works and flows. Of course, this didn't happen overnight. I put in a lot of work in the beginning. So networking is work. That's why it's called network. And you have to be willing to do the work. If you're not willing, don't go. Don't go.
Yeah. And what do you say to someone who maybe thinks about your mastermind and thinks, oh, I don't think I'd be good at networking, or I don't really think that's for me, but they're in sales?
Yeah. Sales and networking go hand in hand. You don't even have to be in sales. Networking, I teach networking to students.
Yeah.
I like to teach it to high school age students, like in their junior, senior year, because they're getting prepared to go out and do whatever they're going to do, whether it is the college route or the vocational route, or they're going into entrepreneurship. Doesn't matter. You have to sell something at all times.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a job, you're selling yourself and your skills and why they should hire you. If you're trying to start a business, you're going to have to do a lot of sales process to get people on board with you, for collaboration, for making products, and whatever it is you're going to do, sales are involved. So everybody should know networking skills that really want to up-level their game and get there quicker and not leave it to chance.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I've always said that we are all in sales. Every single one of us, every human that has a spouse or a sister or a mother or a father or a child, every time you put forward your opinion, or whether it's to go to a restaurant or whether it's to, change the paint on the walls, you're selling your perspective.
Right.
So how much better is it? You're saying you're teaching, juniors. How much better for them to go into the world armed with really good skill set that's going to allow them to be successful.
Right. And back to your original question, someone taking the mastermind that thinks, oh, I'm not really good at it, or I love talking to people like that because they get their eyes opened so wide by going through the process, because you quickly find out when you do it right, you're not the one that has to do the major of the talking. All you have to really know is where to go, how to show up, but you just need to know a few questions that people are going to. I am shocked the amount of information people give me. Like, I will just have met you and people pour out their whole financial background, their relationship background. I mean, I'm just standing there. I'm just amazed that because of the questions I ask, people just feel comfortable in pouring out information. And of course, I gather what I need, and then I decide how I'm going to move forward. So a person that is either shy or thinks that they're not good at it, they really are. They just haven't been taught a process where they can feel comfortable and know that what they're doing is the right thing and gathering this particular information that applies to their business.
Absolutely. And it's more about them that they're talking to. It's all about them. Okay. It doesn't matter if you're a digital marketer or if you're old school, it's always about them. It's not about us.
Right. Yes. And you talk about the digital world. These networking skills translate whether you're in person or you're online. I laugh every time I get a messenger on Facebook saying, "Oh, thanks for accepting me as your friend. By the way, this is what I can do for you." Okay, this is what I can do for you. And I just have to laugh because my first question is, yeah, you can't do that for me. I've already done that for myself. Or this is, like, nothing about me. How do you know you can help me? So I just go right back into, like I was networking with them in person. I ask them my first question. If they respond, I'll ask them the next question or the next two questions. And I will end up networking with that person that just slammed me with their stuff because they don't know any better. And then I'm going to turn them into a fan, and then they're going to take my mastermind class because they're going to have to know how to do it better. So I love getting those because they're instant prospects for me. I don't even have to qualify them because I know.
Yeah. They're qualifying themselves. So that's
right. I don't tell them. Yeah, I don't tell them that up front.
Well, no.
I gather enough information to go, okay, I'm going to stay on this person and let's just see where the relationship goes and if they're open and how we can share. And and sometimes it works and sometimes they just ignore me because they're on to the next one, right? They don't really want to know you. They're just spamming you with all their stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting to see some of them. I have a first name for a last name. So it's really interesting when someone is not paying attention. Many times I've been called Lindsay.
Lindsay, right. I could see that.
And one time, I can't remember what the man was selling, but it was an immediate, "Oh, Lindsay, I know I can help you." I think it was probably social media or something I do. "I know I can help you." So I looked up his last name and I wrote back, "Last name. I don't think you can help me. And I hope you can see why." And I didn't get a response.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I do take the little effort that if they're going to re-engage with me, then I'll continue going. And if not, whatever. Yeah. I tried. Yeah. It was a reach out. I asked a question and they're on to the next one.
So is there anything, sorry about the barking, is there anything that's a bit different when it comes to digital networking as opposed to networking face-to-face?
Not really. I find that digital, you can put out a bunch of stuff and articles and things that people can see that you can't do when you're in person networking. So so like utilizing LinkedIn and getting exposure there and or Twitter or Instagram, all those different places where you can put information out that you really don't do when you're in-person networking. Yeah. That eventually you could follow up with that. Well, what usually happens is in-person networking turns into them following you and you following them on social media. So there's always a time to share that. So that's just one thing that's out of order. But as far as how you represent yourself and asking good questions, that doesn't change.
No, and that makes.
You just get to do a lot more homework on someone that you're meeting online because you can see everything about them versus meeting them at a networking event and just getting the answers to the questions.
I think too that can give you better insight maybe into who would be good prospects, because quite often you'll find profiles online that don't have a lot of information. So it
Right.
can be a little bit more of a fact-finding mission, if you will, to learn something about people, and that can actually be fun.
Right. Right. But the thing with in-person networking versus online is meeting. I still think even if you're an online business or an online marketer, that you need to be known in your community at least.
Yeah.
For whatever your superpower is, whatever your specialty is. So going to events and making sure that you're meeting the centers of influence and they know who you are and you're connected on social media. I think that is still a very important part, and that requires you to know good networking skills to make all that happen.
Absolutely. And I know in the early years of social media, there was an awful lot of talk about fear that this was going to drive people into their homes and into their basements, and they would stop meeting in public. And in fact, the complete opposite has happened, because the more you get to know people in your business relationships online, the more likely you are to want to meet up in person.
Right. For sure. Yeah. Even people you're meeting across the nation, whenever we have an opportunity to go somewhere and meet each other in person, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And the relationships are even that much more deepened. When you can look somebody, I know we look at each other in the eye on Zoom or on the live streams that we're doing, but when you're actually in the presence of somebody and you can see their emotions and, you know, see how they're reacting and feel their energy, it's a really great thing. I do encourage people to get out of their house and make sure that they know who the players are in their local chambers or their local women's events, and being, you know, who's who in their community and getting to know them, because you never know where those two may cross and where it can take you. Because
I'm
somebody
all about the integration, so that's good.
Right. And somebody in your community, especially if they're older, they may not be seeing anything on social media that you're doing because they're not in tune to that. So when you meet them in person and you're sharing all your information and they're sharing with you and what doors you may be able to open to each other, that's a whole new world as well. So
Absolutely.
I know it's kind of old fashioned these days, just like picking up the phone, and I am still a believer of picking up the phone.
Oh, yeah.
The interesting thing about talking about networking all the time is how it leads to sales in my financial services business. Because because in the networking portion, I'm helping people elevate their business. And through that, they're getting to know me and who I am as a business networking expert, but also as a financial advisor. And when you network properly, you never have to ask for the sale. It comes to you.
Wow.
That's what I love about good networking.
Good point. That's an excellent point. I know that Patty Farmer and I, we were friends first digitally for a couple of years, and I got to go to Dallas, so we got to meet up, which was excellent. And over the years, through social, an awful lot of different groups, we've done that, because it does take the relationship up a level when you get to do the in-person as well.
Right. And it creates all kinds of collaboration opportunities and being introduced. I mean, that's how you and I met. It just works. It's like magic, but really it's by design. it's a lot of work. Yes, it's a lot of work, and it is by design. And if you do it right, it just becomes second nature. And that goes back to your question about someone who doesn't think they're a good networker, or they're shy, maybe a little more introverted than extroverted. It takes the pressure off knowing how to properly do it, because if you're just left to chance, the introvert is going to suffer the most.
Absolutely. So from the financial side of what you do, this must be a wonderful collaboration. Your networking, your training people to network, and your financial help has to go well together. Do you suggest that people look at networking as sort of a side business that goes alongside or works with their main business?
That's a good question. I don't really look at networking as a business, although I've created the mastermind that creates income. So technically it is a business, but it's just the vehicle that I use to meet people and build a good network, whether they become a networking client or a financial services client or a collaborator or a center of influence. That's the tool. So I don't know if I would seek out just making that a business. It has to serve some purpose.
Absolutely.
So networking is what I do to build business. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't classify it as a business.
Okay.
I just created the networking mastermind because I needed to be compensated for the amount of time I was spending on the networking education. And what it does is it opened doors for me to go out and speak. It's a lot more fun to speak about networking than it is about life insurance or investments or long-term care. I mean, that's fun too, but most people don't want to talk about that, but they love to talk about networking. And if I can help them increase their income, that's huge. That's
Absolutely.
fun. And then it leads to all the other things.
Okay, so more of a tool set than a business. I just wanted to clarify that because it's not a completely separate stream. It's the tools that you use to facilitate everything else.
Right. Yes. Because I believe the network is where all the business comes from.
Absolutely. Well, when done well, obviously it works.
Yes, for sure.
And Patty's a great networker as well.
She is. She's so fun to talk to. We can talk for hours about networking. And again, we have to put a limit on our time and shut it down when it's time. But we're always collaborating on different things and calling each other up, say, okay, we got 3 minutes, go. And we just talk about stuff. It's nice having those types of people that are at that same level as you are and that can think outside the box and have the opportunities to make things happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're both centers of influence for each other as well, which is great.
Yes.
So what do you see in the next say 3 to 5 years? How are you going to expand or morph the training portion, your masterminds? Do you have any plans to perhaps increase it or make it bigger?
I have a couple plans with it to make it an on-demand course. Although it's hard because it's so personal to me. I love having the small groups and being able to share the stories as they come up. I mean, when you do an on-demand type of training, it's okay, but you miss out on the great stories that might just pop in and pop out. Because I don't remember every single successful networking story. Sometimes something somebody says or something they struggle with, it makes me think of that story in the moment. And when you do on demand, you don't get to share those things.
Yeah.
And also the networking mastermind is really built to be a networking event in itself. And when you do on demand, you're going to miss out on that portion as well. Doesn't mean that still won't happen. But I'm really focusing on my partner in Espresso Brain, Curlin Phipps, is a programmer. So he programs. Right now, he's on a huge project for one of the largest school districts in California.
Oh, wow.
And that's where, through his program, I went in and I taught networking to the students. So we were getting ready to release a book on networking for students, as well as create a program that teaches teachers or after school programs to how to have a better relationship with their students.
Yeah.
And then also another program for teachers to learn how to teach the networking to their older students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think that's an absolute win-win.
Yeah. What really stemmed that way back when was I did a presentation at Fresno State University to the graduating seniors. In the class, we were talking about networking, and there was a woman sitting in the front, and I asked her what her degree was in, and it was in early childhood education. I said, wow, that's great. I said, what do you plan to do with it? And she said, well, I would like to open a daycare. I said, all right, sounds like a good plan. I said, have you ever worked in a daycare? No. Do you know any daycare owners? No. Do you know how much income opportunities there are in daycare? No. So I wanted to pound my head against the wall thinking, how do you get through 4 years of college with an early childhood education degree and not know anybody in the business?
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me. And I thought, do you think it would be a good idea to talk to somebody in the business? And she said, probably. And I said, yeah, I'm going to say definitely.
Say absolutely, like yesterday.
Yeah, I said, how about I find someone for you to talk to? And I connected them, and I don't know where it went from there. But anyway, it was astounding that this person got through 4 years of college without any of that knowledge. It blew me away, and it just made me realize, okay, I have work to do.
Yeah, because not even thinking that would be useful. There's a big gap there.
Right. And that should have been done. Yeah. That should have been done before the degree was established or before that person chose that. They should have been forced to do some sort of assignment that made them go out and talk to someone and find out the answers to all those questions and more, and then decide, is this something I'm really interested in? Or did I think I might be better somewhere else? Or maybe I plan on making more money, or maybe that's enough money and I really love kids, so maybe this is a place for me. I mean, who knows? But at least have some sort of, I just chose this off a list. Wow. Have some criteria for making good decisions. Yeah.
I think it's sad, but I bet that's not the only one.
Oh, no.
In that situation.
Right. Yeah. And then I talked about, you have 4 years to connect with your teachers, gather contact information, gather letters of recommendation, and know your students around you, because here's the perfect networking opportunity. All these students are coming here for graduation, and then they're going to go way out there.
Yeah.
So why not make sure you know who you are, they know who you are, you know who they are, and you have a way to connect with them so that you can utilize that built-in network that you've had for the last 4 years, but most didn't take the opportunity to create it.
Oh, that's a shame. And now you have a way to fix that, which is
right.
Great.
So there's your 3 to 5 year plan.
That's excellent. I think that's a great plan. Yeah, it's a very excellent plan. We'll have to get you moving on up into Canada as well.
Yes.
And come and help our school.
I love Canada. I've been there several times and love to visit.
Oh, well, that's good to hear too. You and Patty can come up and we'll all have a nice visit.
We'll tear it up.
Sounds wonderful. Okay. The one thing I always ask my guests is to leave your audience with one little nugget of either personal or business, a little something that you use maybe on a daily basis, some little tweak or some little hack that you use all the time you think would be useful.
The morning routine. Without a doubt, I do not skip my morning routine. And it takes me 2 hours to work through. So I make sure I'm up by 5 a.m.
Wow.
And that I get in the shower at 8. I've already had an hour of exercise and a lot of coffee. So that's my tip. I never skip it, even if it has to be condensed because maybe I have to be out the door for travel earlier. I get my morning routine done. And that sets your mindset for the day. It's how I get so many things done during the week. People ask me all the time, you do so much. You're everywhere. You're here, you're there. They see me on social media and there's like, how do you keep up a schedule like that? I said, it's all about the morning routine. It's about knowing the things that I have to get done today. They're very clear, very specific. And I don't keep a running list of 50 things on a daily basis. I only have 5 things that I focus on.
I like that.
Yeah. And being, consistent, whether it's networking, your morning routine, but that is my advice.
Oh, that's excellent. Consistency, 5 things, morning routine. That's a great little triad of things to leave the audience with. We're going to make sure that on the page, there's all the information that you will need so that you too could sign up for Gina's Mastermind, because becoming an amazing networker, I think, is really useful no matter what you do. So I want to say thank you so much, Gina. This has been, very enlightening for me. I thoroughly enjoyed our time together, and I'm sure we'll have more times. I look forward to maybe upping my network skills too. Really
sounds good, Elaine. It was a privilege to be with you and your listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And on that note, make the very best of your today, every day, and we'll see you next.
By BBP TV Show and True Social, helping small biz navigate the digital world.